Okay, I'm up recording at the butt crack of dawn because it's hot as hell in the Bay Area this weekend. They're saying it's going to be temperatures of as much as 120 degrees. So, honey, I am at this damn computer early before it gets too ridiculous. But let me get into this. I want to talk about a letter that came in for advice, and I'll read it to you. There's also going to be some slides that you can read along. This young lady writes, I feel very secure in my 6 month relationship. I found a man who has a generous, kind hearted attitude, and he doesn't put me through the drama I hear other women discussing. But there's one thing he does that makes me feel crazy, and that's that he doesn't like to admit that he's made a mistake or is at fault for something. I may be overreacting, which is why I'm writing to you. Let me give you some examples. He borrowed my car a few weeks ago and rear-ended someone. It was just a fender bender, no one got hurt. He said that he would gladly pay for it, but he never admitted he was at fault. He explained it away by saying that the person in front of him suddenly stopped, which made it seem like it was the other driver's fault. In another instance, he forgot an important deadline which required him to pay a penalty that he could have avoided. This is in spite of me reminding him weekly and putting it on his calendar. He said that the people should have notified him or sent a reminder notice to his phone, which in his mind made the company at fault. Another example is that he was carrying bottles of wine in a plastic bag. Instead of holding it at the bottom, he was holding it by the handles. Of course, the handles broke and so did the wine bottles. That stuff spilled everywhere. I just looked at him. He said, well, she should have given me a wine bag. This really bothers me. When I make a mistake, I'll just say, oh, that was silly of me, or what was I thinking? But he never does. To him, admitting a mistake, no matter how small, seems to make him feel some kind of way. It's his inability to hold himself accountable for the things that he does, which means he's not learning from his mistakes. He is instead finds a scapegoat. Is this just a minor character flaw? Could this be something that affects our relationship long term? We're at the point where we're looking at long term, but this one thing really stands out and bothers me more than anything else. It affects me emotionally, mentally, and makes me give him the side eye. Why is he like this? What caused it? How can I deal with it and not let it destroy our relationship? I know you can't change people, so I'm hoping that you can help me get over this. I like your pull no punches style. I understand that this isn't one of the major issues that you usually tackle, but sometimes it's the little things that can be the most toxic to a relationship. Thank you in advance. And she's right. This is not, something so detailed or so personal rather that I would usually address it. But as I thought about it and as I kind of was walking around and watching couples interact, I saw a lot of this. I saw a lot of this behavior because I've had this letter for quite a few days while I worked out my fabulous graphics that you will be seeing shortly. So I had a lot of time to think about this and to kind of, observe and think about some relationships that I've witnessed in the past, some relationship dynamics. And this is unfortunately a reasonably common thing that women do. And ladies, you need to stop. Because, see, you are looking at the thing. Let's start. Well, let me not. I'm getting too detailed here. First, let's talk about let's answer the questions that she said. Is this just a minor character flaw? It depends. And I say it depends because I'm going to say in at least 50% of the cases, it might not be his fault. You assume that it's his fault, but I'm going to show you how in many of the instances you have no proof that it's his fault, and you just jump to conclusions and start blaming him for stuff that's really out of his control. Okay, and the second part is how it affects you emotionally, mentally, and makes you give him a side eye. Unless he is attacking you, or unless you are directly affected by what his denial is, then what is the big deal? Why are you letting it have that kind of impact on you personally? Because I'm still waiting for that perfect man to be born. Okay, that motherfucker has not shown up yet. Folks said it was Jesus Christ, but there's no evidence of that either. So you know from my perspective, he hasn't been born, and so when we sit around with men who meet 95% of our checklist and but complain about that 5%, and that 5% is not like he's beating your ass, doing drugs, or cheating on you, gambling away the money, or sexually abusing the kids, out committing crimes, stuff like that, then this is really in the grand scheme of things not that big of a deal. You're making it to be a big deal, but it's not a big deal. But I'm going to show you why, because I don't like to just tell people stuff. I like to prove it to you. Okay. The first thing that women need to understand is when they start telling men what to do and how to do it, and you making all these suggestions and managing him and all this stuff, doing all this stuff, you doing too much. Okay, he is a grown ass man. That's shit you do for a child. Now, when you have a grown man and you treat him like a child, it changes the dynamic between you. It even though you might not understand what's going on in your head, you're doing that because you don't trust him to do it himself. You don't respect him to handle his own business affairs in the way that he sees fit. You want him to do things the way that you would do them. And that is so wrong. It's like two left feet. He's not you and he never will be you. Okay? You cannot have a relationship with somebody that you're trying to change through, influencing them, through correcting them, through guilt tripping them, through criticizing them, all this kind of stuff. I see this a lot on the opposite side. It's mainly the men doing it to women, but it does happen women to men as well. And in either case, I don't care who it is, male or female, it's not your job to change anybody but yourself. Okay, you got with somebody, they was fine all the years they lived before they ever saw your face. They made it to this point in their life. So obviously they got enough of a handle on their existence to make it another few decades. They don't need you to tell them what to do. That's what you do to little kids. Okay, that's not what you do to a grown man. Secondly, so that's rule number one. You never tell a man what to do or how to do it unless he specifically asks you for your assistance or for your input. Now, sometimes they will. You with a dude and he knows that you know some particular subject better than he does, or he values your opinion and your insight into people, for instance, something like that. He might, really come to you and say, this and this and this is happening, or I want to do this and that. What do you think? What you see? What am I missing? He might, do that kind of thing. And in that case, ladies, then of course, you speak up. But if he's working on something and you come and you want to see it, and then you start throwing in your 2 cents before he's really finished formulating it and telling him how you would do it and all this sort of stuff, so you need to shut up. Just shut up. Don't say nothing. It's not your thing. It's his. Let him be. Leave him alone. So that's rule number 2. Every time you want to open your mouth and do something to help him that he can do for himself, refer back to rule number 1. Okay? Just keep number 1 like in your eyeballs, or tape it to your forehead, so every time you look in the mirror to check your lipstick or your mascara, whatever, you will see rule number 1. Rule number 1 is important. Okay, because if you don't do that and you start sliding into rule number 3, see, it's like just because you would do something a certain way doesn't mean that that's the only way or the right way for anybody else on this planet. It just means it's right for you. Okay? Don't you notice even with all the advice I give, I always slide that in there. You grown, do what you want to do. This is my perspective. But people come here to hear my perspective. So I give it to them. Now they don't always have to agree, but that's just the way that it is. But I'm not expecting anybody to change and do everything just because I said it. I think it would be beneficial if they're having the problems that I discuss as a problem resolution. But if they opt not to, or they opt to solve the problem some other way, that's their choice. They're grown people. They are entitled to do what they want to, including make mistakes. Okay, their mistakes don't affect me, so they're entitled to make them. If they affected me, then we might have a problem. But they don't. So I have nothing to say. Okay, and you should be that same way. Because him doing the stuff that you mentioned, okay, other than the car, and I will talk about that in a minute, doesn't impact you really at all. All right. So let's talk about this car accident thing. I'm going to try to go through this letter, point by point. Car accident. Okay, first of all, that's why they call them an accident. Because nobody crashes their car intentionally. Well, I take that back. Some people do, but they usually want to total it so they can get an insurance claim or something. But in a little situation like this, nobody does that kind of accident intentionally. That is an accident. And accidents happen. That's why we have car insurance, right? We have that to protect us in the event of an accident. Now, as for your accusations that you're not believing him, like I said, you don't trust him for some reason. I'm not sure what that reason is. If there's some history that I don't know anything about, that could be. I don't know everybody's business, but and I can only go by what's in the letter. But there's some distrust here because if he says somebody stopped suddenly, that should be the end of it because that happens all the time. People stop suddenly because a dog runs out, a ball runs out, a kid runs out. There's a pothole ahead that you didn't see. Something fell off a truck that you can't see. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. Sometimes it's so stupid that people, they stop to read a text or they got distracted by a kid or something, in the falling in the car. There's like 900 different reasons why somebody would suddenly hit their brakes unexpectedly and, cause a little fender bender. It's happened to me. So I know this for a fact that I'm an extremely careful driver who's probably put at least 1 million, 2 million miles on all the vehicles I've driven over the years. Because I've, hit the 300,000 mark on several cars. So it's, this kind of stuff does happen. And the main point is you weren't there. Okay, you weren't there. You have no proof that what he told you was not true. Yet you accuse him. Basically, you're saying he's a liar. That's what you're saying by saying that, he's making it the other person's fault. You have no proof that it's not the other person's fault. Yet you are sitting there angry at him for not admitting that it's his fault. See, I'm not understanding where that's coming from. That's what I'm saying. There's a little bit more here that, that you need to think about why you feel that he's lying to you. Because, I don't know. Somebody told me that I would believe it because I know it's to be true because I've personally experienced it. People drive like fucking fools, and they always hitting their brakes they're on the goddamn freeway. They be hitting their brakes, and about to cause an accident. Luckily, I see them. You know what I mean? But if I was distracted even for 1 second, I would have had many accidents because people are stupid. They just drive like idiots. Okay, then let's move on to talk about. Wait a minute. Let me refer back to this letter. Okay, so we did away with the car. Okay, this deadline thing. You want to talk about the deadline. You reminded him weekly. Okay, you put it on his calendar. Reminding him weekly is nagging. Okay, you don't need to nag him about his bill. That's his bill. That's his responsibility. If he pays his bill, great. If not, then that's great too. It don't affect you one way or another. It's not your money. It's not going to impact your life at all if he misses a deadline on his bill. See? So again, I'm not understanding where this is coming from, and it sounds kind of control freakish. And that's not a good way to interact with your dude. That's just not cool. And he said that people should have notified him or sent a reminder notice to his phone, and that's true. And that is what most companies do. They'll say, you're like even Verizon. I have, Verizon for my phone service. They send a damn text to your phone. Oh, your payment is due. Your bill is ready for viewing. Your payment is due in 2 days. They do that kind of stuff to remind you. Then you can match the little buttons and pay the bill by phone, right on your cell phone. But, that is the way that most companies do it because they know people are so busy and they are so distracted. So in that particular instance, again, you're worrying about something that really has nothing to do with you. And, you've made him wrong. You made him the bad guy over something really kind of irrelevant. And then in the third one, you say that he was carrying these wines in a plastic bag and holding it by the handles. Well, that's why they had the handles, so you could hold them by the handles. Now, what he might have done was ask for 2 bags. If he got like several bottles of wine, it was heavy, and the bags were flimsy, then you usually get a double bag, sometimes even a triple bag. But I haven't seen anybody hold a plastic bag by the bottom. I've never seen that. So I've just seen double and triple bags, in order, but so people still hold them by the handles because that's why they had the handles. Now he said she should have given me a wine bag. Maybe she should have. If they have wine bags at the store and she didn't give him one, well then that was her fault. And I would have went right back to the store and said, you should have put this in one of the wine bags. Why you put it in this regular bag? And now I broke it. I want you to replace my wine. See, that's how I am. But I'm not sure. I don't know the store. I'm just giving my thoughts on the issue based on what was presented here. As far as this, how you make mistakes and what you say, that's fine for you. But everybody's not you. He doesn't have to do things the way that you would do them. So it's like you need to ask yourself, young lady, a couple of questions. Like, you know, I don't know what is, you ask me why does he like this? I don't know why, because I'm not, I'm not acquainted with dude. But what I would say is maybe since you are, that you could ask yourself some important questions like, how does he deal with shame or guilt? How does he deal with it now versus, how did he deal with it when he was growing up? What was the interaction with his parents around, shaming and guilting and being accountable and being blamed for things? And are you making accusations when you talk to him about these things? Or are you asking questions? The tone of voice that you use is extremely important because there's an inquisitive tone of voice and there's an accusatory tone of voice where you basically have become judge, what they call it, judge, jury, and executioner. And, when people feel attacked like that, which most men do when you start criticizing them, they tend to get defensive. And, sometimes people will lie just to get you off their back because it's making them so uncomfortable. So think about how you ask him these questions and how you talk to him about these issues and, check your tone. And then ask yourself, too, what issues are unresolved in your own life about needing to be right and in control? Because my thing is, this, in a lot of relationships, you could be right or you could be happy. That's what I tell these MGTOW dudes all the time. You could be right or you could be happy. Now, to be happy and with another person is going to require flexibility and giving up of control because you don't control anyone but yourself. And there's a lot more. There's a lot more we're going to talk about here, but I really wanted to get that part out of the way because that is very, very important and it applies to a lot of people in a response to the key issues in your letter. Now let's talk about accountability because you say that he refuses to be accountable. I'm not seeing that. What I see is he's not being accountable in the way that you want him to be accountable, but accountable has it has a meaning that his behavior is included under. So I put the definition here. I pulled it from someplace. I don't know. I put the quote down there on the slide. But it basically means that you're accepting responsibility, which can be a personal responsibility or a public responsibility, like a government entity. Corporations have a responsibility to their shareholders, that kind of thing. They have to be accountable for the decisions that they make that have a financial and managerial impact. Okay. Sometimes, though, and this is where your part comes in, taking accountability means admitting that you made a mistake. Punishment may result, but accountability shows ownership and a willingness to admit mistakes. Now, does that mean that the person has to say that they made a mistake? No, it does not. What it means is that you take the steps to rectify the mistake that you have made. Whether you say the words or not are irrelevant because the words don't change shit. Okay, they don't change anything. You want the result. The result in this case of him being accountable is he fixes your car without you have to chase him down, whine or nag him about the money, pay for yourself, and then, try to worry about getting the money later or drive around with your car all fucked up. He's going to pay for it, and he offered to do that readily, without you even asking him, he's going to handle it, okay? So he's already admitted that he's going to be accountable for the issue, for what happened to your car. That means he's being accountable for the mistake that he made. He may not say the word words, but you're being too literal and you just being too hard on him about nothing. Now, obviously, like I said, there's some issue in his past, or he is terribly, terribly afraid of you leaving him. So he's trying to like come across as perfect as possible to meet your expectations of perfection. It's not going to happen. It's too hard on both of you. You got to stop trying to make him be Mr. Perfect in your eyes, and he has to stop trying to do what you want him to do. He just has to be himself, and both of you can relax. You guys are headed down a dangerous path, and I will explain that in a little bit. This what's going on in your relationship about this stuff is not good. Okay, because I really need to explain this to you and to the other women listening. The most important factor to a lasting relationship, the most important thing that men need from their woman is her respect. Now, love is fabulous, sexiness, good sex, looking good, smelling good, having the same goals, having the same spiritual beliefs, or, you both atheists or whatever, great communication, you like the same music, and you both golf and all that stuff is fabulous. All that is great. But that's not what's going to make the relationship last. Because people fall in and out of love all the time, right? The divorce court's full of folks who was madly in love just a couple of years ago. What makes a relationship last and get through all the ups and downs and twists and turns that a long-term relationship has is mutual respect for each other. That is key. That is the magical key to everything. So if you don't feel it and you don't show it, your relationship is just not going to work. This is not going to work. And this is what's happening. And I put this in the slide because I wanted you to be able to maybe, I don't know, screenshot it and print it out or whatever you need to do. But when respect is missing in a relationship, you're going to doubt your man's intentions, and that's what you're doing. As I said, you're not trusting him. You will judge his choices, and you'll do things that make him feel he's being monitored and caged. He can't make a decision on his own because it's going to be something that you disapprove of. Basically, you putting him in a choke chain and, trying to make him do what you want him to do. That is not fair. That's not right. And that's the kind of stuff. See, he's going to start hiding from you because he doesn't want to hear your criticism or critiques of his behavior, and then that's when your relationships don't start cracking. Because you've got to maintain an air where there is complete and total communication and honesty. There should be no secrets and no holding back between you if you want your relationship to last. He has to know everything about you and you have to know everything about him. But if you create an environment where he's afraid to tell you things because you're going to be criticizing and judging him, then he's going to stop telling you stuff, and then it's going to be a problem. So you got to ask yourself, do you really respect this man's, what he does for work and how he handles himself at work and his, his personality? Is he patient, creative, his intelligence? What are his values? Do you respect those? I mean, go down the list. What about him do you not like? I mean, you have to think about this and be honest with yourself. And do you think that, sharing your deepest, most intimate self with him is too risky, or is that something that you can comfortably do? And the number one thing that shows that a woman respects her man and her as well is that you want to hear what that person has to say, even if you disagree with them. How they think and how they communicate and what they say, basically their opinion. You respect their opinion. Even if you might disagree, like I said, it doesn't mean that you're going to always disagree, but you respect their opinion. And that is what men need from women. That's what they need from their woman, her respect. So, you have to really ask yourself this. I know this is hard to listen to, but you have to ask yourself if you really respect this man. And if the answer is no, then why are you with him? Coffee, yum. So let's talk about these, what respect looks like when you are, demonstrating it in your relationship. The number one thing is, you don't go around bad-mouthing your partner. I have a friend who does that. She's constantly, and she has children by, not by this husband, but a previous husband. And she tells those kids what this man does. See, to me, that's so just extremely inappropriate. Whatever there's going on in their marriage, it needs to stay between the two of them, or a counselor, or what if they go into church and talk to their pastor, whatever, whatever people do for some outside view. But your children, no. They should never know nothing about what's going on between you and your man. That to me is just so foul and funky. I don't know what to do. And he does the same shit. He tells his friends shit. So then they fight, right? So then they make it everybody get on sides, and then they get back together, and it just creates animosity and confusion amongst the people around them. If they had just kept their mouths shut, then nobody would know that. So be very careful about what you say about your partner to other people. You also have to think about, if you're saying bad things about them, that means you're thinking bad things about them, because we don't just start talking about stuff just out of thin blue, just out the sky. We're thinking about stuff, and then we talk about what we're thinking about. So that means you're thinking bad things about your partner. Why? Now, I mean, I'm going to say, there are times when you would be saying something bad about the motherfucker because he's doing some egregious shit. But that doesn't sound like what's going on here. I mean, I have women writing me whose husbands are beating their ass, gambling up all the money, not paying the bill, putting the whole family out on the street. I mean, all kind of just trifling, low down, doggish behavior. And that's the drama these chicks are dealing with. And yeah, those motherfuckers do need to be talked about. They need to be talked about on social media, on Fox News, and any other platform that they can be talked about and dragged on. That's what they need. But this guy, that doesn't seem to be the issue here, and that's not the case in most instances. And so, folks need to stop spreading all their business about their partner. Number two, you have to respect that he's different from you. Your partner's going to have different hobbies, different interests, different life experiences, which of course results in having a different perspective than you do on a lot of different things. And just because you would do something a certain way doesn't mean that the way that you chose to do it is better than his. It doesn't mean it's worse either, but it doesn't automatically mean it's better. So, you got to just accept the differences, appreciate the differences, and let stuff go. And respect that, your partner's going to have an equal say in the relationship, because you're a team. This is not a dictatorship. This goes for the guys too. You don't get to run shit just because you have a dick. And women, you can't nag a man into doing what you want him to do. Leave him alone. And if the dude is not the right dude for you, and you feel like, you have to constantly be on him and checking up on him and following behind him and, making sure he don't screw up and all sorts of stuff, then perhaps you have the wrong dude. But that, again, doesn't seem like that's the case here. And then, as I said earlier, respect each other. Respect includes no secrets. Nothing should be off limits for you two to talk about. That person's got to know your very soul. And if you feel that you can't do that, 6 months relationship, of course, that is probably still in process. But, I'm just saying this is a quality that long-term relationships possess. Those people know each other better than anybody else on this planet. And those ties keep them together. Now let's talk about the attitudes which will lead to a breakup. Okay? Criticizing and attacking your partner's character. Now that's the kind of thing, like, instead of talking about what they did, the behavior, some people get into attacking the person. Okay, so the person made a mistake. Instead of just talking about the mistake that they made, you just so stupid, you can't do shit right. Everything you touch is all fucked up. You just the dumbest bitch, you the dumbest motherfucker, that. Okay, that kind of stuff. Those are character assassinations. And those are entirely inappropriate. When you get into that kind of stuff, your relationship is already on the rocks. It's basically over. Everybody just hanging on for something to do. Defensiveness, that's blame shifting. That's when you try to make the other person responsible for what you did. Now, in this case, the defensiveness can come from, it can be warranted, like the person, like I said, feels attacked, like in number one, the criticizing and attacking the partner. Okay, such an individual, if you're constantly being criticized and attacked, will normally become defensive. Okay, they're because they have to become defensive because it's like a shield they have to put up against all the attacks and criticism. So see how that works? Now there is also the defensiveness that I talk about here was like abusive defensiveness, where they don't want to take responsibility for the harmful things and the harmful acts that they have done. Like say they stole your ATM card and they already knew your PIN number and took out drained all the money out your account. Well, if you had just given me the $200 I asked for, I wouldn't have done that. Okay, you just committed like I don't know what kind of crime that is. But it's because you was mad because you didn't get $200. See that kind of stuff. Or I wouldn't have hit you if you it's your fault I hit you because you made me angry. Or it's your fault I cheated because you wouldn't dress sexy enough. Stuff like that. Okay, contempt, where you put your partner down, you make them feel inferior, incompetent, worthless. Comparing somebody to other people is a common way that this is done. Where you make your partner come out on a short end. Well, why can't you lose weight and looks good like so and so's wife? Why can't you do this and this and this like so and so's husband? That kind of stuff. You just make them feel inferior to others. That's pretty common. And then there's people who stonewall, like this one dude, like his wife trying to have a discussion with his ass. This nigga gets up and walks out the door and goes and gets in his car and drives off. I mean, it's like he just left her there, frustrated and upset, trying to have a discussion with him to resolve a problem they're having. And he just was like, fuck it. Just doing his own thing, like no cares and no fucks to give about what she was talking about. Their marriage didn't last much longer either. So see, these are the kind of things. These four here. If you got this bell's ringing, any of these four bells is ringing in your relationship, you better fix that shit pronto, or your shit is about to blow up in your face. Oh, my coffee's getting cold. All right, so then I put all throughout this, you will see there's like lots of examples of the male and female exchanges. And I did that because I wanted to demonstrate how men receive what you think. You think you're being helpful, right? You think you're helping him. You're showing him love. You do what I said. But what he really is going to feel is controlled, nagged, disrespected, being treated like a child, just everything negative. And like, remember rule number one, if he didn't ask you for your help, he didn't ask you for your input, he didn't ask you what you thought, he didn't ask you what you should do, but here you are telling him. See, that's controlling. That's an attempted to control a grown ass man. Zip it. Don't tell him nothing. If he asks you, then you tell him. And I don't know. I just think that in the bottom line is, everything, no matter what we talk about, it comes down to respect. Everything comes down to respect. You got to understand, it's two people that came from different worlds, practically different planets, according to that John Gray dude, Venus and Mars. You decide, okay, we're gonna try this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna live together, we're gonna get married, we're gonna do whatever we're gonna do, and we're gonna do it together. Okay, to expect that you would never have conflict is unrealistic. There's going to be conflict that's built in. Two of you have different values, you have different life experiences, you have different perspectives, different viewpoints, different feelings, different thoughts, different expectations. You're not clones of each other. There's going to be a lot of differences. The key though is to navigate those changes successfully. That requires openness, tolerance, patience, and communication. You're not going to change the other person. Okay, you cannot expect to change them, nor should they expect to change you. That is showing a lack of respect. You're not respecting who and what they are. You only want them to be what you want them to be. That's not respecting who and what they are. That's a problem. So, you got to love your man in spite of the differences that you have. And pick your battles. Most of the shit, that's what I learned after my husband died. And we used to fight. Well, no, I used to fight. I used to act a fool, cut up, just act up. And I had a horrible temper. I still have a horrible temper, but it's not as bad as it was. But I would be constantly going off on that man. And and it's about stuff which I thought at that time, considered that he was also 10 years older than me. Stuff that in my little young mind was important at that time. Was important stuff. I just had to say something. I had to, I had to let him know that, blah, blah. But what I've discovered after he died is I sat around and I was thinking, okay, what do we used to fight about so fucking much? Why was I so upset? And I could only remember three things after 10 and 12 years, three things that we fought about that were like really important things. The rest of that shit was bullshit. I can't remember it. I couldn't remember it even a year later why we fought. Okay. So that's what I'm going to share. That's my tip for you and for you ladies listening. If it's not going to matter 10 years from now, then it don't matter now either. Okay. Just accept that. A lot of us, we get into this thing where we have all these, he need to do this, he need to do that. Well, in some instances, like I said, sometimes they do. They don't, they slacking off on work, they slacking off on their responsibilities in the household. They doing stupid shit, that's making the whole family suffer or something. Okay, dig in his ass with both feet. I'm just like, just put your foot up his ass and walk around with him like a shoe. That man deserves that kind of treatment. But, you got to do, you just like talking, you guys just having some disagreement about some theoretical bullshit and some little, nonsense. I mean, sit down and talk it out. Come on now. And, but my final advice for this young lady is, do that homework that I suggested, get into your head and ask yourself those four questions. Was it four or five? Whatever it was. Ask yourself those questions. And if you really feel that this outweighs this or whatever other issues you're having with this guy outweigh the benefits of being in a relationship with him, then you know what time it is. If these things are, as I said, they're not really affecting you, and in some of the instances you have no proof that what he said is not true, you have, some thinking to do about where you want to go in this relationship. Anyway, that is my 2 cents. This is Deb Cooper from survivingdating.com, askheartbeat.com, blacksgoingvegan.com. Check out my vegan website and my recipes there. And I'll see you guys in a few days. Now that you've seen some of the grade A content that the Debsterism channel offers, please become a subscriber. Just click the subscribe button down below. Then you'll see a little bell. Click that after, and then you'll be able to get notifications sent directly to your cell phone of when I post new content. You can be one of the very first people to review the new videos, like them, comment them on them, and share them. We'd like you to do all of those things to help the channel grow. I appreciate your support, so become a subscriber. Tell your friends.